Your awesome Cupra Tavascan is now getting the one thing it might still be missing: a frunk under the hood. Check out how easy this is. Simply insert the frunk, position it on the strut bar. When the clips are properly aligned, press down 4 times and it really holds very, very firmly in the car. The whole car shakes when you pull on it here. There you go. It's best to load it with 1 or 2 small bags, such as backpacks or totes, to make handling easier. Or of course you can also fit a large bag in there quite easily. Please close the double net again now, carefully. On the left side, you can simply place the charging cable or the charging brick inside. And in addition, you can store extra safety vests, small items like an umbrella, and similar things in the net. So you've seen how easy the installation is. Now I'd like to answer a few questions that we get asked repeatedly. One topic that comes up again and again is the issue of heat buildup under the frunk. If we take a look at it here, or with other cars as well, it actually always works the same way. Then under the frunk there is, in this case, only the heater or air conditioning unit. Here it really doesn't matter at all whether there's an extra layer of insulation or the frunk above these components. In fact, it might even be a good thing that it's a bit better insulated. But in other vehicles, the rectifier or other components are located underneath. These are, of course, cooled by the cooling circuit, and it makes no difference at all whether the frunk is positioned above them. We've also made an additional video about heat buildup, which you can find on our homepage under the FAQs. You're welcome to check it out there. But there's absolutely no issue of any equipment under the frunk being damaged. We're also often asked why we don't put a lid on our frunk, the front trunk of the vehicle. There are several reasons for that. On the one hand, if we were to add a lid here, it would definitely reduce the available space in the frunk by about 2 to 3 centimeters. And that would be a shame because you wouldn't be able to load as much in. But that's just one of several reasons. The main reason we decided against a lid is that if we made a lid that's sealed airtight, or just put a simple cheap plastic cover over it, then when you put the cable back in, which is often wet from rain or mud, the moisture needs to be able to evaporate. If we put a mat over it, condensation forms inside this compartment because the mat blocks airflow and traps moisture. As a result, the air inside cannot circulate properly, which causes water vapor to build up on the inner surfaces. This condensation can't escape since the mat acts as a barrier and may end up settling on the silver. Over time, this moisture collecting on the silver can lead to tarnishing or other damage. It settles on the silver-plated connector elements, and silver oxide then forms on these connectors. And of course, that means a higher contact resistance. So if it can't always dry out, there's a risk that the connector elements and active components will get damaged. That's why please don't cover anything up. Leave a small gap, just like we do, so that the humidity can escape accordingly. Maybe a quick note about this emergency sticker. It's just additional information for the fire department in case they need to use this disconnect plug. With this disconnect plug, the fire department can separate the DC, that is the high voltage circuit, the battery circuit, from the car. If an accident happens and it needs to be disconnected, the fire department can immediately see where this plug is located. Then we often get asked, what do I actually have to assemble myself on the frunk? With the MEB platform, nothing at all. We don't do a DIY kit like the Swedish furniture store. Instead, we already attach all the elements that are on the frunk. You receive the frunk delivered like this and only need to insert it and press it into place accordingly. Then there's the topic of safety. For many of our frunks, and when we transport something with a Cupra, drivers in Vienna will also find a TÜV inspection for the Cupra Tavascan specifically at the TÜV in Vienna. During the TÜV inspection, many things are checked, including the material quality, to ensure that the material is not flammable. That's why we use a relatively expensive material called ABS V0. It is checked whether it breaks, and if it does, whether it breaks without splintering, along with many other relevant topics in the engine compartment, with driving tests and the like. So TÜV checks quite a few or many of the safety relevant aspects. But in addition, we also make a video explaining under which criteria a Frunk can be installed without any problems and without the need for additional approval procedures. If you're interested in that, check out our homepage under the FAQs, where the video is also available. Just very briefly. The key point is that nothing on the car is changed that could in any way be relevant to safety, that the crash test behavior remains the same in the car, and that pedestrian protection is not affected. On the topic of pedestrian protection, we get asked about that very, very often. As I said, the video shows this very well, but when a collision with a pedestrian occurs, the pedestrian first lands on the hood, but the force exerted on the hood is not very great and is not dangerous for the pedestrian. It becomes problematic when the pedestrian's head hits the windshield. And you can see this quite clearly with the Cupra Tavascan. We are also often asked about active pedestrian protection in this context. Here, the Cupra Tavascan is equipped with active pedestrian protection. These are, so to speak, explosive charges that are triggered in the event of a collision with a pedestrian, causing the entire hood in this area to be propelled upward. This means that the impact on the pedestrian's windshield is deflected slightly upward, thereby providing a certain and enhanced level of pedestrian protection. But if you look back at the whole process, the hood is propelled upward. As a result, there is absolutely no issue with the Frunk that is installed underneath. So, firstly, pedestrian protection continues to function if an active pedestrian protection system is installed, and the installed Frunk in no way poses any additional accident or injury risk for the pedestrian who, unfortunately, might be involved in a collision. It does not pose a problem in any way. So if you like the Frunk, get it now on our homepage. Thank you, yours truly, Joseph from Frunk.at.